Hey, Stuart Rev Donald here. You know, 4th of July is right around the corner and it's probably the biggest barbecue day of the entire year. So I'm going to do a special episode of Little Grill Big Flavor as part of iFood.tv's summer grilling series sponsored by aFire. Now the folks at aFire, they have these very unique barbecue tools, I guess you would call them. They have the cedar planks for grilling. They have their own barbecue rub, and what they sent me was a case of their coconut shell charcoal briquettes. Now anyone that's followed my work at wannabetvchef.com knows I'm all about the coconut. I make fried chicken, biscuits, and gravy with coconut oil. I make ice cream with coconut milk. Heck, I even use crushed coconut shells for the soil in my palatial gardens. So when they offered me the chance to cook something with these coconut briquettes, I jumped all over it and I decided, you know what I need to make? The Big Tex. The Big Tex is an homage to both Texas barbecue and the Gulf Coast tradition of the po' boy sandwich. It's got smoked brisket, cheddar cheese, onion marmalade on a toasty hoagie roll, and if you want, you can even add a little bit of barbecue sauce. I won't judge you. Now let's get started with this episode of Little Grill Big Flavor. Almost since the onset of the World Wide Web, our Webco has been on the cutting edge of service and value. Innovations like downloadable web templates make building a quality, polished website a snap for the novice and the expert alike. With several affordable packages, a 24/7 technical support desk, and an online manual, our Webco has established itself as an industry leader. Our Webco accepts major credit cards, checks, and money orders. Hey! This is beef brisket. The brisket is broken up into two parts. This end that's a little flat is called the flat. And then this fatter end that kind of comes to a point is called the point. To get a big brisket like this completely done, you're looking at 18, 24, maybe even 30 hours in a giant smoker. The problem is, I don't have a giant smoker. I've got a small household one. After all, this is Little Grill Big Flavor. So what I'm going to do is bifurcate, there's a big word for you, this, and separate the flat from the point. The flat is what I'm going to smoke. The point I'm going to set aside, maybe do some corned beef or pastrami with it at another day. Okay, now that I have my meat cut down to a size that we can handle, now I want to trim a little of the fat. Now fat is a good thing. It's flavor, it's moisture, it's a key component in this. But as you can see on part of it, there's just too much fat. What I need is about 1/4 of an inch worth of fat all the way down. So I'm just going to start trimming the fat off of this. Just let the knife do most of the work for you. That's why you invest the money in the nice knife. Okay, now as you can tell, I've got considerably less fat on the top of the cap here. The next stage is to throw on the rub. And in case you've ever wondered why this is called rub, this is why. Be any left in this bowl when I'm done. What? The recipe? Hang on. As you can see, I'm getting plenty of this rubbed in here. I want to flip it over because it's got more than one side. Now that's a well-rubbed piece of meat. I like to let it sit out for a while, hour, maybe even an hour and a half with a cut this big, to let it come to room temperature. Well, that's just weird. I've never seen a briquette quite like this before. What do you say we load up the chimney and take them for a test drive? You know, because they look like tires. Probably take more than that. That ought to do. If you don't have one of these chimneys, you're making life worse on yourself. Okay, I'm getting ready to take my brisket out and put it in the smoker. One last thing I want to do is I want to take a temperature probe. I'm going to drive it into the center of the thickest part. And this works kind of like an alarm clock, only instead of setting it for what time I want it to be ready, I set it for what temperature. And for smoked brisket, what you want is an internal temperature of 185 degrees. What I want to make is an onion marmalade, and I'm going to start that off by taking this white onion, cut off the root, peel off that outer layer, rough chop, drizzle a little bit of oil on it, hit it with a little bit of salt. I'm going to fold it up in this aluminum foil. I'm going to drop it in my smoker for about 45 minutes to an hour. Pulled my onions off the smoker and gave them a good little chop to break them down a little bit. I'm going to come into my pot with a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to take all those onions. Now is when I'm going to start turning this into a marmalade. I've got some brown sugar, salt, fresh ground black pepper, and a little bit of Creole mustard. Temperature down to low, and I'm just going to let that kind of sit there and come together for 30 to 45 minutes. Okay, here's my brisket. I pulled it off the smoker, and I've let it just sit here and rest. Just rest for about 15 minutes. That'll let the juices redistribute. Now, if I've done my job right, there'll be a little ring called a smoke ring in here when I cut into it. Just a little pinkness right beneath the crust.
Come in here, right in here. Take a look at that. That is going to be delicious.
I've got a good bark on here, which is what you call the outside. Move this over. I'm going to slice some up. I'm going to show you how to make a big Tex. I've got my hoagie roll. I'm going to layer in some of that brisket. It's a big Tex now. It's not a Tex. It's not a little Tex. It's not a medium Tex. It's a big Tex. Okay. Now I'm going to get some of that onion marmalade.
And just because I'm feeling wicked, a little bit of barbecue sauce. And then some extra sharp Vermont white cheddar. And I'm going to take this out, put it on the little grill, and finish it up right.
Just want to put it on the grill and close the lid long enough to let the cheese melt. Okay, it hadn't been very long now. Not even a minute. Got a good melt on the cheese. Good toast on the bun. Now it's time to get fat and happy. Man, them birds is angry. Oh, hey. How about that big Tex? Was that an awesome sandwich or what? I mean, it's part barbecue sandwich, it's part po' boy. You got cheddar cheese, onion marmalade. How about that smoked brisket that we did over the coconut shell briquettes? And that was terrific. And no, it didn't taste like coconut. You know what else it didn't taste like? It didn't taste like petroleum, and it didn't taste like my tennis shoes. You know why? aFire doesn't use any additives or chemicals in their briquettes. It's just coconut shell. So that's going to about wrap it up for this episode of Little Grill Big Flavor. So for iFood.tv, for aFire, and for America, I'm Stuart Reb Donald.